The moment I stepped inside the glass lobby of the firm, I knew my career was on the chopping block. The receptionist refused to meet my gaze and instead stared directly at the floor as if she carried a heavy secret. Seconds later, an urgent email notification popped up on my screen, demanding my presence in the main conference room immediately. There was no context provided in the message, which only heightened my suspicion. For 3 straight years, I had generated historic revenue growth for this company and secured our largest contract to date. I built that $28 million deal from scratch during a long flight using nothing but a napkin and determination. Yet the corporate world lacked loyalty, and my achievements meant nothing to the executives who wanted to claim my hard work for themselves. I could feel the danger approaching as I walked down the long corridor. My direct supervisor, Nora, was whispering behind her office door with a false sense of sympathy that she usually reserved for layoffs. She and the managing director, Julian, had been plotting to replace older professionals with cheaper labor for months. I knew their strategy well because I had watched them discard talented colleagues without a second thought. This time, however, they were targeting me, and they had no idea I was prepared for this exact moment. Before heading to the meeting room, I detoured into my office to retrieve my original employment agreement from a locked drawer. I flipped directly to the specific protection section that I had secretly negotiated during my previous contract review. That hidden safeguard was my ultimate insurance policy against the exact corporate betrayal I was about to face. I placed the document inside my leather folder, adjusted my suit jacket, and prepared to face the firing squad. When I walked into the conference room, the blinds were tightly drawn, and Nora sat stiffly alongside 2 silent representatives from Human Resources. The atmosphere was completely devoid of warmth, and there were no performance reports or laptops on the table. It was clear that this was not a discussion, but an execution designed to remove me from the organization. Nora offered a tense smile that lacked any real human emotion or warmth. Nora cleared her throat and announced that the company was restructuring and my position was being eliminated effective immediately. She claimed the decision came from corporate leadership, meaning Julian, who lacked the courage to face me himself. I simply nodded my head without showing a single drop of fear, sadness, or anger. Nora seemed genuinely startled by my calm demeanor because she expected me to beg for my job. I handed over my security badge and walked out of the room like a person going on a casual lunch break. Nora stayed behind, probably celebrating what she believed was a massive financial savings for her department budget. What she did not realize was that terminating my employment 24 hours before my massive equity bonus vested triggered a specific penalty. They thought they were saving money, but they actually doubled their financial obligation. Instead of taking the elevator down to the parking structure, I went straight up to the compliance department on the top floor. I needed to find Harrison, a brilliant young corporate attorney who knew exactly where the company buried its secrets. I dropped my leather folder onto the desk of his assistant and demanded an immediate meeting. Harrison opened his door and looked at me with deep concern, knowing that trouble was brewing. I informed Harrison that I had just been terminated without cause and that the company refused to mention my incentive clause. His expression shifted from concern to intense focus as I handed him the original contract documents. I pointed directly to the specific section that detailed my transition safeguards and accelerated payout terms. Harrison read the text once and then reviewed the signatures slowly as the reality of the situation dawned on him. Harrison explained that the language was completely airtight and required the company to pay double my equity value plus damages. Nora had signed the implementation paperwork months ago, and I possessed the digital files complete with her electronic tracking data. The executives thought they could avoid the payout by firing me early, but their actions legally triggered the immediate acceleration. Harrison laughed quietly at the sheer stupidity of the leadership team. Meanwhile, down in the Human Resources department, a massive wave of panic was beginning to take hold of Nora. She stormed into the records room, demanding that the staff produce some form of negative documentation against me. The Human Resources manager informed her that my record was completely spotless with 0 warnings or performance issues. Nora realized that they had terminated a top performer without a legal justification. Up in compliance, another senior attorney named Clara took the contract documents from Harrison and reviewed the penalty terms. Clara turned pale when she saw the valid signatures of both Nora and Julian on the final page. She immediately initiated an urgent review of my file and alerted the chairperson of the board of directors. The corporate lawyers realized that a multi-million-dollar disaster was unfolding right under their noses. Nora tried to defend her actions by claiming that she was merely trying to save the company $4 million in bonuses. Clara flatly informed her that this careless maneuver would now cost the firm over $8 million in total damages. Nora sat down in complete silence as the gravity of her massive blunder finally crushed her confidence. The plan to cheat a loyal employee had completely backfired on the leadership. I finished packing my personal belongings into a simple canvas tote bag without any rush or resentment. I took a photograph of my mother from the desk, remembering her advice to always be too excellent to ignore. I walked past the corporate trophy cases and entered the elevator feeling completely detached from the building. A young marketing associate asked if the rumors of my departure were true, and I simply smiled. I told the associate to advise everyone to read the fine print of the company contract before the doors closed. I walked out of the headquarters and down to a quiet coffee shop located 4 blocks away from the chaos. I connected to the wireless network and watched my inbox fill with frantic messages from the board of directors. The legal team was already begging for a private settlement to avoid a public lawsuit. The corporate leaders learned a very expensive lesson about trying to manipulate the people who build their success. They treated me like an expandable line item on a spreadsheet, but I operated 10 steps ahead of them the entire time. Now they are forced to pay every single dollar they owed me, plus a massive penalty for their greed. True power comes from knowing your worth and protecting yourself against the corporate machine.